What's up, everyone? As you all know, we have a big storm coming in, and by big, I mean tropical storm. So it's not really that big, not to us Floridians that have been here, by the way. But I will tell you this. When Irma came through a few years ago, that was just a squall line, meaning that Irma wasn't really it wasn't a formed storm anymore. There was no eye. It wasn't even a tropical storm. It was just a squall that went through, and it did a lot of damage, caused a lot of flooding, and we were out of power for 7 days, actually, for that. So I believe it's Debbie, which will be a Cat 1 when it goes by. We're just going to get some bands. This is the day before the storm, so you can see some of the stuff in the background. And there's some interesting things that the Villages does to make sure that there's not a lot of flooding, and they've improved this over the years. If you are in the Spanish Springs area, especially right off the square, there's a lot of water that gets caught and trapped in those low-lying areas, and the water raises all the way up to the hacienda and goes up the stairs, and you can really see it. You can see the rain in the background of these videos, by the way. A lot of times what happens, and people don't think about this, is the ground is already saturated because we're in the rainy season here in Florida. It's rained pretty much daily for the last month or plus, a little more maybe. And so what happens is the ground is really saturated, and then the winds will come through, and if they're 40 to 60 mile an hour winds, or gusts can be even higher, it will knock those bigger trees over right out of their root system. So that's very important to think about. We don't have any trees in our yard because I hate raking leaves. So there's that. I did want to take a moment to give a big shout out to all of the people you see on the screen for the super thanks and on the videos. I know a lot of people, think making YouTube money, which is not very significant, let me tell you. So shout out to those doing super thanks. It means the world to me to get stuff like that. And I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. All right, back to the video. So you can see Shady Brook here. Now, these water retention ponds that you see, the way they do the construction here is they can move the water from one pond to another. They can, if one's low, they can fill it. They can, things like that. You might have noticed lately, especially in the last week or so, the sprinklers are running and they're trying to drain some of these ponds so they're lower, so that the water will fill these ponds up and not overflow them. So the other thing about this is a lot of the pre-construction and land clearing, they do water runoff. So they direct the water in certain ways to these areas so that they can, so that the retention ponds get and serve that purpose. So the water doesn't pool in these neighborhoods, and it doesn't do those, stay in people's yards. I have seen, especially on the northern end, Spanish Springs, where you see the water sitting in people's yards, low-lying areas, but they do try to avoid that. And some of these swampier areas, or the wetlands, they like to call them. I call them the swamp. I mean, they are a swamp. They are also here, obviously, because they preserve a lot of those wetland areas. So you can see a lot of the construction in Shady Brook is well underway. I mean, I would suspect they'll be done with this area in the next couple months. They've really ramped this up since I first started doing videos down here. It seemed like construction was going so slowly, and now it's like speeding by. So it's very interesting to see the difference. The golf courses are looking good. And I do think sometimes the way they do the golf courses is they do the construction on them, and then they plan for them to be close to done during the rainy season. That way they do the overseeding, and then the rain and the irrigation really help out to green them up and make them look good. And these are some of the newer houses. You see a lot of the roofs are being put on. Not as much construction going on just because of the weather, but definitely still getting after it. Still a lot of construction workers outside, and many of them working on the interior and things like that. So it is definitely coming together, and if you have a house in here, be ready for it to be done pretty quickly, because they are moving. I mean, every time I go out here, there's another, 10, 15, 20 foundations put in, and the same amount of roofs on and walls up, and they just, once they get started, they move at an incredible pace. It's unbelievable what they can do. Hopefully you stuck around. If you did, check this out.
Where can you go and
play in the sun?
Relax with me.
Get away from the kids.
Hey!
free drinks?
All on a death trap miles away from any shoreline in sight? That's right. We're going on a week-long trip in the Caribbean.
Iceberg, right ahead!
There was an intensive 6-hour rescue that brought nearly everyone ashore.
We'll be stopping at locations like Nassau, Ocean Cay MSC Marine Reserve, Costa Maya, Cozumel. Drinks are free as long as they're under $10, and we can book more adventures at an additional cost. So pack your bags and get ready to enjoy the open seas.